Hey YouTube, Lupinranger here, and welcome to my review for Lupinranger vs. Patranger episode 39. Starting a new thing where I put out things based on what I'm talking about because this area is like super boring, but the lighting's like way more consistent in this area, so I'm doing, you know, vlogs from here from now on. But anyway, look how exciting this is, guys. I have like friends to do reviews with, finally some friends. Anyway, oh god, I almost killed my friends. Oh, I got it. Okay, now let's get on to the actual point then. So, this episode I actually thought was pretty good. It was the second episode in a row that Zamigo is appearing. After not appearing since I was 3 years old, he finally appeared twice in a row. But we kind of continued off of last week, and we found out something interesting, which was, you know, last week's, or last week, because there was a week off, we had him doing his little ice thing to another gangler and seemingly taking him out, but then we find out in this week's episode that he actually just displaces people. So he'll like freeze them and he can displace them wherever he wants. I'm going to assume, hopefully rightly, that that applies to the Lupinranger's loved ones, you know, because we assume they were just straight up killed. So it's, unless you could do both, you know, why not both? Why not murder and displacement? You know how it is. But, so I don't know where he would take them because, you know, clearly he didn't take out the gangler because that was the gangler of the week, and then he used him again to his advantage to put him in front of Lupin Red's attack. Where was I going with that? Oh yeah, so like, we don't know what he did with them, like what purpose would him doing that to the loved one served, but that's an interesting wrinkle. We continued this sort of arc we've been on for like 3 episodes now of Kairi just not wanting anything to do with Keiichiro because he reminds him too much of his brother, and Keiichiro's being kind of overbearing about it. Again, I think that's an interesting angle. I wish they would have built that up more, like more sooner. That's a really good English term, more sooner. But like, I wish they would have done that a little bit earlier, I guess. But I still think that's an interesting dynamic, especially with the stuff we did earlier when he was getting Lupin Magnum. Look at props. Just don't make noises again. You know, where we find out that, like, even though Kairi's obviously still doing this for his brother, you know, he's kind of found a niece in doing this, you know, Lupinranger stuff. So I think there's some interesting stuff at play there for sure. And I like that they kept that going, and it's not something that they just pick up when they want to. Like, you know, some Sentai series I've seen do that where, like, we highlighted that in the episode, and then for like 2-3 episodes you kind of forget that that was a dynamic they established, and then they bring it back later. But so I like that that's kind of a continuing story, if you could call it that. I mean, it is, but you know what I mean. It's not like a main storyline. Speaking of main storylines, you know, Zamigo stuff is picking up. Noel was trying to investigate him because he's like a double gold guy, or whatever they call it. Double-chested, wait. But you know what I mean. And he first asks the Lupins about it when Kairi's out, and he's like, oh, do you know this guy named Zamigo? Like, never heard of him. Is that a new character? I've never seen him before, because like he hasn't been in the show in so long. But then later they're like, oh yeah, he was from like 45 episodes ago. And then they tell Noel about it. That's not really what happened. I mean, it is, but without the jokes. Like, they initially decide to lie, and then Umiko gets advice on, I can never remember Green's name. Shibuya roll call. Shibuya roll call. Green. She gets advice from him on the bench because she kind of uses, like, you know, my friend and then the other friend and vague terms, and she wants to get like advice like, should we talk to our other friend about this even though Toma doesn't want him to. And then she comes back to Toma and she's like, I think we should tell him because it can only help us, you know, get to our goal quicker. And they tell Noel about it. It was actually not confusing for me, but kind of surprising to me. I think maybe just because I'm not that observant, but I thought that Kogura knew about Zamigo, but I guess he just thinks that they vaguely have missing loved ones that have nothing to do with a gangler, or do, but that's why they want to do what they're doing. I thought he just knew about that. So they're wanting to keep it a secret because they're worried about anybody involved with the Lupin family basically prioritizing you know, the collection over the Lupinranger's goals, which is a smart thing, but they trust Noel, and it seems like Noel's backing him up. He's not going to tell Kogura. I honestly was expecting like a shady scene, like at the end of the episode when Noel's like, I'll keep your secret. I was expecting him to immediately go outside and make a shady phone call, but maybe that'll happen next week, but I was surprised about that. But there was some momentum on that. Lupin Red tails the Gangler after he makes a disguise, and then that leads to Zamigo just revealing that it was a trap that he wanted to fight him. So Lupin Red's fighting Zamigo, and then everybody shows up, all the Rangers, and Lupin Red uses the new power-up, which is, it's pretty decent. I like it. I think it looks pretty cool. I have to say, though, I do prefer, like, the red power-ups where it, like, more significantly alters the suit. Like, we have Q-Ranger last year. Although I'd like to see ones, like, kind of like Geki Rangers, where they're still at the core of the same suit, but they, like, accentuate it. I don't know. That's for, like, another video. But it was fine. I think it's kind of cool. Like, its power is basically, like, its reflexes are so fast, it's like it sees things happening first, or it's like a little bit of foresight. It's like a super spider sense, but Lupin sense. Although the only thing I don't like about it is when they use the effect for showing off that he's using that ability. There's one where it's almost just like infrared, but the other one, it's like, it's using this high-pitched ringing, and it's like the same sound effect they use in movies and TV when somebody gets, like, near an explosion and their ears are ringing. It was just kind of really annoying. That's like a really small tidbit, but he's fighting Zamigo, and he's like kind of, you know, taking him to school. He's taking him to school, and that's when Zamigo puts the guy in front of him as a decoy, and Keiichiro can, like, visibly see how intense and upset Lupin Red is. But then, you know, we gotta do the mecha fight. We get Victory Lupin Kaiser's debut. Again, even though these aren't necessarily things that warrant full-on focus episodes to them, I kind of wish because Lupinranger's so filler-focused, I kind of wish we had dulled these out so you have, like, mecha debut in one episode, then the form, and so on, instead of doing both. But it's fine. It's kind of just more of a nitpick. But yeah, that one's pretty cool. I like the, you know, like the victory pose it does. I'm not sure which one I like better between that one and Tank, but it's a decent formation. For whatever reason, I really like the flight formation, where they basically just stack the vehicles on top of Victory Striker. Or not, that's not Victory Striker. Yeah, Jackpot Striker, there we go. And, like, they're literally just snapped on there, but I think that was kind of neat. And there was, like, a really cool, like, aerial fight with it, and the finisher is pretty cool for it. So yeah, it was a neat little fight and debut to it. And then, like, I kind of skipped all around, because then at the end was that scene with Noel and stuff about him keeping the secret and whatnot. But, like, again, I expected something kind of shady to happen. But I thought this was, like, an overall really solid episode of Lupinranger versus Patranger. I like that we kind of started some momentum, both on, like, Noel finding out about Zamigo and where that might go, whether it strengthens the bond with him and the Lupins and he actually proves he's not so shady, or whether he does something shady later. We got Keiichiro, you know, noticing some stuff about the Lupinrangers and Zamigo. We got actual momentum on the Zamigo stuff. And, like, we opened up the thread of, like, Kairi was wondering, like, well, if Zamigo wasn't the one that stole Noel's loved ones, who did? So it was pretty solid. It's kind of setting up some momentum for these final little arcs we got going. I was just gonna say, though, that I think it's interesting. I'm surprised that Zamigo basically seemingly ends up being the story. I mean, we have, like, what, like 8 episodes left or something like that? So who knows, we could resolve Zamigo in a few episodes and then have, like, a final arc that's, like, a couple episodes. But honestly, I expected Zamigo to, the Zamigo arc to climax around, like, 25, 30, and then have the Lupin Patrangers find out who everybody is, and then go into another arc. I didn't expect it to basically be the only arc. Like, I know that's the Lupinranger's core motivator, but I didn't expect them to stretch it out all the way to the end. I think that could have been handled a little bit better if they'd sprinkled a little bit more, rather than kind of having it be there early on and then being absent for so long. But I don't know, that discussion's for another time. But I thought this episode was very solid. I think I would give it a 7.5. Until next time, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and of course, don't forget to climb the steps and ring that bell to get the notifications for all my videos. Until next time, Dawson Ryder, signing out.